Why do you think that automation piece hasn't just really taken off? Why are
Their
we?
secret sauce is to overpromise and underdeliver. That's
Uh,
why. In my opinion,
uh,
that's why Pia and Roost and others, they give you so much pie in the sky in the demo. And to be fair, we've not tried Roost. We've been to some demos. We did try Pia, and at the risk of getting sued for defamation or something, it didn't work for us. What they forgot to tell us in their demo is that this won't work unless your client environment is set up exactly like this. It has to fit into our mold or it won't work.
all right, welcome back to another episode of the From the Trenches, a BMK Vision podcast series. Today we've got a new friend with us, Charles. Charles, how did you find yourself in this crazy MSP world?
I was a software developer, and this is going back to the early 2000s. I could see our rates coming down because I was a high dollar contract, Oracle, SQL Server, Power Builder kind of guy. And I could see our rates going down because of so much offshoring to India and other places. And I decided I wanted to get into fixing computers for people. I was already doing that for neighbors and such. So in 2003, I started a company called Sugarland PC. I was based in Sugarland, Texas. So it made sense. And I started marketing and built this thing up to, 7 or 8 employees or something like that. And was doing break fix for residential customers and doing break fix at that point for businesses as well. We'd fix a computer at a house and it turns out the guy owns a business. And I'd come from the IT world, so I knew Exchange Server and all SQL Server and all those things. And I'd gotten a lot of, paraphernalia from Robin Robbins over the years. And finally, I joined her organization. And though we had 20 something thousand and managed recurring income, MRR income, up to that point, I really didn't have a full grasp on what an MSP really was. But like her organization, like any other, whether it's service leadership or HTG, Evolve, whatever, you get in and you get around other business owners and you start realizing what's possible. And so we went through a couple of year transition where we got rid of all the break fix stuff and focused primarily on or only on commercial clients with recurring contracts. Um, but yeah, that was a bit of a challenge. We didn't know how we were going to do that, but we walked through it step by step.
Yeah, good for you. That's excellent. How long you been around now as an MSP or an IT firm?
Uh, Sugarland PC about 10 years ago became Preactive IT Solutions, but as an organization since 2003, so 22 years, 22 and a half. And I would say we had gotten rid of all the break fix work probably about 9 years ago. About 9 years ago.
And as you've come through, how many people are you today? How many staff are you?
27.
27. So you've built this thing to a size that not many MSPs get to, unfortunately. The average is, probably around $2 million, 10 to 12 employees, and you've well more than doubled that on the staff count, and the revenue usually follows that. So first of all, well done. What was the breakthrough for you? Why do other people get stuck at the 2 million and you didn't? What do you think the difference was?
So I think that that's probably a cap. Well, all the limits are in one place and they're in the owner's head, right? Whether it's a lack of knowledge or stuck in some idea. Um, I think the biggest thing that has helped us is the EOS principle of delegate and elevate, where I'm not the guy working on servers anymore. And I see so many of these guys that are around that $2 million mark. They're not resetting passwords anymore, but they're probably still involved in the server work. Now, that's not to stop somebody from walking in my office and asking me a question about some SQL Server thing, right? Because I might have some better knowledge with my history. But I'm out of the tech work. I am in that EOS visionary role. I am still where I still fit in the org chart at a lower level is sales and marketing. So I've even hired sales guys, but I'm working with them daily.
Right. So you point to EOS, and I have so much respect for that operating system, that model. And you mentioned you do have some sales and marketing folks, or you hire those types of folks. To me, that's kind of like the perfect combo to breaking through. I can see people getting into the 4 or 5 million with just a really active kind of sales intention, but maybe they're not doing a lot of strategy. And I think that's what EOS does, is really pull the strategy out of you to say, where are you going? Where are you trying to get to? Would you weight either of those? Did one come before the other? Did they kind of come hand in hand? That's
The EOS versus what?
the EOS, and the fact that you have employed, or you employ sales marketing folks as well.
They, no, I don't. They kind of came around the same time, I think. I started EOS about 2 years ago, and I hired my first sales guy probably a year and a half ago, shortly after that. But I tell you what, yes, EOS first, now that I think through it, because EOS makes you look at where do I want to be in 10 years and 5 years and 3 years and a year and 3 months. And you have to go through an exercise with your leadership team of what, okay, as business owners, we're always going to jump. If you ask me, where's your business going to be, the measuring stick I'm going to use is revenue every time, right? And for clarity, we're coming up on 5. We'll be probably 4.7, 4.8 this year. Um, and that's another year of more than 20% growth.
We'll be right back with more, but first, here's a quick message from Bering McKinley.
Most MSPs are constantly busy, chasing tickets, projects, and fires. But without structure, it's hard to know if the business is really improving. Vision from Bering McKinley is the system that helps you work on your business, not just in it. It connects leadership strategy with daily execution. Vision aligns people, process, and performance, creating clarity and rhythm from goals to results. And the Vision app brings that structure to life, helping you create policies, track goals, review KPIs, and collaborate with your BMK consultant all in one place. Behind it all, Jetson AI, your assistant inside Vision, helps you find answers, generate insights, and take action faster. With Vision, you gain visibility, accountability, and measurable growth. You're not guessing, you're improving. Vision, Jetson, and the Vision app, your path from strategy to results. Start transforming your business today.
All right, let's get back to the conversation.
So we hired an EOS coach and started implementing in January of 24. We had tried to do it years before, but we weren't bought into it enough. And so we went in at gung ho this time. And part of the EOS process is looking at future casting, where you want to be and what your business is going to look like. And we realized that to reach our long-term goals, at some point, Charles has to no longer be the salesperson. And so we now have 2 salespeople on staff, and I'm working with them. One has a good deal of MSP experience, one's newer to the industry, but I'm going on at least one meeting with them with the prospects. And, so the prospect can still get to talk to the CEO, right? And I'm helping with the proposals, and I'm trying more and more to document those processes and shed more of that work.
That's excellent. So I'm hearing a couple of great things in there. One is you did EOS, and you hired a facilitator, a coach through that, which so many times people try to go it alone, and I think that's just really tough. What drove you to go that route instead of trying to self-implement?
Paul Sissel told me from the stage that 80% of the people who self implement fail. That's why I hired a coach.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds about right. Well, good for you. So you hired a coach, and you're at this how many years now? 2, 3 years?
January is going to be 2 years we've been at it.
Okay, great. And you've stuck with the coach the whole time?
Yeah, and we paid a guy that's got a higher rate, but he built and sold an MSP to a larger MSP here in Houston, and then eventually left that to be an EOS coach. I think he implemented EOS at the larger MSP. They now belong to venture capital or private equity or something. But so when we say Autotask or MRR, he knows what we're talking about.
Oh, that's excellent. So you hired a coach, and along that way, as you're doing your vision casting and figuring out where you want to go, you determined I can't be the only salesperson. In the previous, 20 years or however long it had been, had you taken some stabs at the sales piece?
One guy.
You only
I
had
had
one.
I
Good
had
for you.
hired one guy, old Roger, back probably I would guess 2012, 13, and he had sold, I don't know, other things, appliances or something, and he did a horrible job. But that was my fault. Like anything else in the business, it was my fault. I didn't hire the right guy. I didn't have processes for him. I didn't have a list for him. I didn't have anything. I said, here's what we do, go sell it. And shockingly, it didn't work.
McKinley. Well, at least you only made that mistake once. I think most of us have dozens of failed attempts littered behind us. So good for you.
And I'm an extrovert. I do okay at sales myself. Being part of technology marketing toolkit, Robin Robbins has helped because, there's training, there's classes, there's resources, and most importantly, there's talking to other people, other MSPs.
No, that's excellent. So as you've gone through this, you've been doing the EOS now for a couple of years. We have our own system at Bering McKinley called the Vision System. It's EOS-ish. So I'm always really excited when somebody's doing something. So how much? Tell me, like, what are the noticeable differences in your team and your leadership team with this system? Like, what are some things that you're like, oh, we look really different than we did 5, 10 years ago?
Well, there's accountability everywhere, and that comes from having KPI everywhere. Meaning, in the olden days, I might hear a complaint from an owner of a company because our help desk performance on his tickets has gotten really slow. Well, today, every Wednesday morning at my leadership meeting, one of the numbers we look at is what was our average response time and what was our average resolution time to help desk tickets last week. And if those numbers are up, we start digging into why, because every problem is either process or people, right? The process needs to change or the people need to better adhere to the process. And so just having reported numbers up and down the food chain, up and down the accountability chart, uh, has been wonderful. How many projects are off track, and do we need to talk about those? And what's going on? Do you need more resources from me to make that happen? Were there any sad faces on CrewWho last week? Why? What happened? What can we do better next time? So you're constantly monitoring for things out of compliance with standard. And then when they are out of compliance, you're quickly diagnosing the issue and fixing it to minimize it happening again.
Right. Yeah, I like that word standard as well. We talk a lot about standards. We've gone as far as to, have these 7 domains of an MSP and subdomains and standards. What's our standard for time entry? What's our standard for vacation requests? What's our standard for whatever? And that level of documentation that we see some companies have, it's like, man, once people know what to do, how to do it, how they're being measured, things just start clicking
You
into
you brought
place.
up the one thing that is a common problem with all MSPs, it seems, until they figure it out, is time on tickets. And so the KPI is project team is 90% and help desk team is 80%. And if you don't have an average across the help desk of 80% on your tickets, why? That's in the leadership meeting. In those help desk meetings, their level 10 meeting, They're talking about individuals then. Why don't you have 80%?
And as we think about, your first 20 something years in business, you've seen that evolution from, being a software developer to fixing computers in people's homes to being a full-blown, very successful MSP. What do you think comes next in the MSP world? Where is all of this leading? What's your kind of outlook on the industry as a whole?
I don't know if I'll can make detailed predictions to what the changes are, but I can tell you that there will be changes because I mean, the evolution of my business has been fix people's computers in their homes by the hour, and then fix small business computers by the hour, and then start managed services for the businesses because I saw changes in, you know, tablets and other things. Cheaper computers were affecting our revenue. And so we bobbed and weaved along the way. And then we started outgrowing our own capabilities and implemented EOS. And so, you know, next certainly AI is there. Um, Both how are we going to use it internally and how are we going to use it with our clients? And internally, I can tell you we're using it in the sales process. We are using it in the help desk process. We've got automation on the help desk that all of our ticket triage is done better and faster by automation through AI than using humans. So that saves us a little bit of money there.
Right.
Um, I have a friend who has in another MSP. He has it's kind of a beta version of an agent he's built that he can put on his customers' computers to diagnose issues that are going wrong. He can deploy it quickly through his RMM. So more and more tools like that are going to be coming to help us be more efficient. Now, all the customer's going to see from that is maybe we're cheaper, right? But you got to look at what can we do for the customer and their business to help them recognize the same kind of advantages that we're going to have.
I think that's really insightful. And you had mentioned in our little pre-conversation about, you go on these calls, you're a great student of EOS, and as you're listening to these prospects, you're like, boy, EOS could be a help in here. Where does the MSP begin to play into that advisory or consultancy role?
Well, when we're talking to them, we're trying to go above just what broke last week that made you mad at your MSP and dig deeper into how does that affect your business and how often is this happening and what are the most tedious things in your business. If you want to look for places to improve, you can ask them what's the most repetitive, um, what is the most time consuming, what's the most tedious processes that you have. Because if they'll answer those three questions, you probably got some places you can help them improve the process. Whether that's by something that you could easily do from your help desk or putting in a new server, or it's uh, doing some AI development or whatever that happens to be. In the construction world, sorry, in the construction world, the biggest opportunity we're seeing around automation, and I've got a consultant that does this, is in the AP area. Because if you take a general contractor, they might have these 50, 60 subs working multiple projects, and they're sending them all these invoices. Well, you can use AI to read the invoices and put them into your accounts payable system and cut out what might be 8 or 15 hours a week for somebody, tedious labor, and cut the mistakes out of it or reduce them.
Yeah, for sure. And there, that I had this conversation with a gentleman a couple weeks back, and he had a really interesting outlook on what does an MSP look like, 5 to 7 years from now. And he had a pretty, I don't know, grim is probably the wrong word, but his was, hey, if you're not willing or interested in pivoting into bringing some of this technology and some of this business process analytics to your clients, man, just sell now because you're going to have a really rough couple few years and great time to sell if you want to sell. And, I really loved how he said it, but it also just is like, I don't like to hear that. What do you think about that type of assessment?
It's a guy who's not willing to hurdle that next change that's coming. He's afraid of whatever that change is. Um, and and maybe he's adapted to the 6 prior changes and he's tired and he's 60 and he's done with it, right? Um, I would tell you here's a real world example of where that thinking I think cost a guy some money. There was a company here in Houston that built to 5 million in revenue. It was an MSP. And primarily what they were doing was managing exchange servers. That was their big foot in the door, was to manage exchange servers. Well, in 2011, uh, Office 365 came out. And before that, you had other people hosting them, the App Rivers of the world or whoever that would host Exchange for you. So this guy thought, that's it. My business is toast because of all this online hosting. He sold the business when it was at 5 million in revenue. Well, I know that owner and I know the new owner, and the new owner has it probably closer to 30 million now. And there's no reason that guy couldn't have adapted a little bit and ridden that wave himself. And instead, he now runs some small marketing firm. And maybe it was enough. Maybe he doesn't regret the decision, but I look back on the whole conversation I had with him and said, "Man, I think you cashed out early, buddy."
Well, that's an interesting point too. It's, most of the MSPs that I deal with were founded somewhere between 1999 or 2003, 2004. And that means that everyone's, a solid 20 to 25 years older than they were. Uh, how do you think that factors into this change? If we believe the next evolution is even a bigger jump than the break fix to managed services, if we believe that, um, how does age factor into that? Do you think?
Well, I'm kind of getting on that cusp because I'll be 59 before Christmas. And so that's certainly something I think about is, do I want to sell it or not? And then I think, what would I do with all that time? How bored would I be? What would it do to my life expectancy? And I think, you know what? I've doubled this thing in the last 3 years, and I doubled it in the 3 years before that. Why can't I double it in the next 3 years? Right? And go, really get it up there and have a machine where I'm running 40 or 50 employees. And I mean, you get there, you don't necessarily need to be in the office every day. It When I look back at the evolution of our business, what if when $200 Acers came out and then iPads came out, and I saw that we were no longer able to make the profit on selling desktop computers to consumers that we could, and there were less and less IT problems because so many things were moving to the cloud. What if I said, well, there's no way we can overcome this. Let me sell this business. And I would have sold at, $750,000 in revenue, right? And we're 5 times that today. So then after that, it was, how do I overcome, the hurdle of Office 365? Or how do I overcome all these security nightmares of ransomware attacking all my clients? And while AI is huge, granted, potentially bigger than the birth of the internet, right? Uh, it's just another hurdle. It's probably bigger, but it's another hurdle. It's something that we have to adapt and change to. And you mentioned age. Yeah, if a guy's 65 years old, I get it. Sell it. But you don't have the energy left in you anymore.
What do you think when you think of the team that you have today, the team you had 5, 10 years ago? What looks different between like a really high performing technical mind today and maybe the type of person that'll be needed? I don't know, 4 years from now. Does that person look any different in your thoughts?
They may, and your staff slowly changes out over time. I remember a lunch I had with a friend who was also a new client, probably 18 years ago, 17 years ago. I had this lunch with him, and I was complaining about saying, I got an employee I got to call and get out of bed in the morning. We were 6 or 7 people. And he says, you're not going to fix them. You're going to replace them. The thought scared me. Oh my God. Well, everybody I had as a employee then is gone. Right. Um, and I've replaced them with a better set, and then they're gone and I've replaced them with a better set. And we are a more mature organization now. And so we hire heavily based on aptitude and not skills and experience. We way more value aptitude than anything else. And so we have guys who can learn and grow. We've got guys who came in here knowing nothing that now can do servers and firewalls and all of that stuff. And
Yeah,
so
yeah, go ahead,
to
please.
to further this, I I think if you look down the road in 5 years, I'm going to have another pod back there. I've got a knock and security pod. I've got a help desk, 2 help desk pods, and I've got a project pod. I think we're going to add call it programming, call it AI, whatever. We're going to have an automation pod. Guys that are doing business process stuff, automating business processes.
How much into that world have you dove in, if that's the right way to phrase that?
I struggle with the word
Dove,
divin,
in, dived.
dived. Yeah. Um, so we have a relationship with a consultant who we have not yet brought into any of our clients. We've played around with a little automating things in Microsoft tools, the whatever their power tools or power automate, that kind of stuff. Um, we're just dipping our toe in the water a little bit. We're starting to ask clients in the account management process some of those questions to dig into where are their needs. And if we can't fulfill them internally, we'll bring in an external contractor to do it, somebody that has experience doing it. And as we ramp up to whatever those needs are.
Yeah, and it's been interesting. I've followed the journey of Roost over the last couple of years, and that RPA, that robotic process automation tool. And like I look at it and I just like salivate. I'm like, this looks so fun. This looks amazing. Look at all the things you can do. And I listened to a great speaker talk, and he shared a list of hundreds of things that they were automating in their business. And I was like, oh man, this is going to be a crazy year. That was 2 years ago. And boy, I'm just not hearing people, really even in their own businesses running with that yet. Um, if my observation is reflective of many MSPs, why do you think this automation piece is not going as fast as maybe someone like myself would have predicted? Knowing, of course, I'm not technical at all either. So everything looks easy to me, but why do you think that automation piece hasn't just really taken off? Why are
Their
we just
secret sauce is to overpromise and underdeliver. That's
mm,
why. In
mm.
my opinion, that's why Pia and Roost and others, they give you so much pie in the sky in the demo. And to be fair, we've not tried Roost. We've been to some demos. We did try Pia, and at the risk of getting sued for defamation or something, it didn't work for us. Um, what they forgot to tell us in their demo is that, oh, this won't work unless your client environment is set up exactly like this. It has to fit into our mold or it won't work. We are having some success with a tool called Neo Agent. It does not do all the fancy things that those others do, but a very simple example is the triaging. That's what we're using for triaging tickets, is Neo Agent. And I think it's cheaper than those other tools as well.
Sure. Yeah,
You
that's
know, one of the things, if you're going to, so automating things internally in your MSP, that's one thing, but we talked about bringing some of that technology and ideas to your clients. And I think that's hard to do if all your interface to the client is just the help desk, right? So do you have a good customer account management process where you've got an account manager who owns these 2 dozen clients and he's talking to them regularly, be it quarterly, monthly, or whatever it is, and he's bringing this up and asking them about the opportunities because the client isn't going to think, as their accounting people are typing in invoices into their AP system, right? There's not a little dinger goes off in their head and they say, man, I need to talk to my MSP about this. Maybe they can automate this. And what may happen to you is that an automation company or another MSP comes along and beats you to that. It's like back in the day, whether it was backups or security, or whatever it was, VoIP, if you weren't talking to your client about it, someone else might be. And I think this AI and automation is in that same bucket. That you need to at least be talking to them about it. And maybe they don't have a need, maybe they don't have a perceived need, but dig in there and make sure. And if they do have a need, find them a solution, even if that means bringing in an outsider to help.
Yeah, that's interesting. And sounds like you particularly are poised to have the conversation and use that outsider if you need it. So you're actively kind of figuring out how to have that conversation with your clients today.
Well, I'm the visionary. I have all kind of crazy ideas.
That's right. That's right. Oh, that's fun. Yeah, it's been very curious to me. There's so many tools that come out, and I definitely have a little bit of the shiny object syndrome to me. And I was talking to remember the company Process Plan?
No.
Now they were really making some good headway in like the mid to early teens, 2000s, whatever, 15, 14. And they kind of reemerged on my radar with a solution that uh, takes this ability to it creates an AI employee for you. You go ahead and set it up its own workstation and whatnot. You record yourself doing any process, any repeatable process, record it, send it to them. They work their magic on it. And next thing you know, that AI employee that they set up for you is doing that thing. And they showed me a couple of brief examples, and I'm not doing it justice, I'm sure, but I was like, boy, if that's true, if that actually works, well, gosh, that's a whole different spin on automation that I never would have considered. I've kind of limited my thoughts to what can you program Roost to do, or any other RPA. Have you heard of solutions like what I described for Process Plan?
Heard of, virtual employees, but I've not dug into it. And it sounds like a human's going to look at the recording and try to see where they can automate the common things in there. All of this is dangerous, though. What if you've got them? The first thing that came to mind when you were talking about that was, oh man, reconciling QuickBooks accounts, going through QuickBooks and reconciling the bank account once a month. Could it do that? But then I think of the flip side is how bad could that screw up my QuickBooks if it went off on a tangent somehow?
Right, right, and
So you
and
need this to, that's like, I don't like the idea of giving the client necessarily a completely AI solution, but maybe using AI to help you develop more quickly, where you're developing an application that does things the same way every time, and you used AI to help build it.
uh,
We've done this internally. I have my right-hand man, my integrator. He needs for his account managers to have all kind of reports and data on the clients, right? Well, they can go get some of it out of Autotask, and they got to go look at this other thing. And so he built using Replit, which is an AI development platform. He's not a software developer. In about a month, he built um, a integration into an API into Autotask, and he has it pull all the numbers and The account manager can look at all his clients and see who's got what profitability going on the next 90 days, look into their projects, all that kind of stuff. So it's a daily driver tool now for the account managers.
Nice,
And
nice.
we have two account managers, and not every client is fully pulled into our account management process. We've really started doing this heavy in the last 6 months or so, and we are bringing them in one at a time. Our goal is like every quarter we're adding 5 more clients, and of course we started with the biggest ones, and then any new clients that come in are uh, getting pulled into this process.
Yeah, that's very cool. It is, I think a lot of MSPs want to get into the account
I'm going to
management.
turn a heater down here
Yeah,
that's
go right ahead. Yeah,
making noise, I think.
I think a lot of MSPs want to get into that account management game, and they kind of feel, a level of guilt or whatever about, hey, we haven't done our BQRs and we need to get going with that. And, they're staring down 50, 60, 70 clients and like, God, where do I start? Where did it sounds like you started with, the biggest or most impactful clients first.
Yeah, and we're using kind of the service leadership teachings on this and looking at, so we're analyzing profitability. One of the things that you can use as a driver as well is, well, if that largest client is running a 70% gross margin, when I account for all his tools and the labor we spend on him, maybe I'm not so worried about pulling him in just yet. From the client's perspective, you ought to be assessing their systems every year and advising them on, this isn't about just selling. I think we've kind of built a bad name for ourselves as MSPs. When we want to meet with the client thinks, oh, they're just going to try to sell me new stuff. When it should be more about strategy and advising the client on when they're going to need new stuff. Let them know way ahead of time when they're going to need this new stuff. Give them budgetary numbers and that kind of thing. But maybe you've got some smaller clients and you analyze them and realize they're only a 50% gross margin and we could make them better, right? So those are the ones we want to talk to right away. Maybe we have a new security tool like a threat locker or a huntress or something that we only got a year ago and not all our clients have it. Maybe do a webinar and bring 10 in at once or something and try to, because you want them all on your stack as much as you can get them there.
Yeah, that there's another interesting point too along that idea of that client experience, that client relationship, and account management. That's good blocking attack that it makes sense. But you mentioned webinars, and I sat through a great presentation recently of somebody talking about that client experience, and this particular person was like, "Yeah, we do all sorts of events throughout the year, whether it's every month we have webinars where we invite all of our clients to show up. They do lunch and learns just for their clients as the primary audience." And I was like, man, I love that. Anything to keep that relationship going and showcasing what else you can be doing for the client or getting their creative minds thinking. Is that a game you guys are deep into, or are you
We're
doing
not
something?
doing a lot of webinars. Um, we want to. It's a bandwidth problem, right? Just it's all of this stuff takes so much time. And so you end up focusing on what's going to bring money in the door, right? The CAM process does bring money in the door. I mean, we for several years now we've maintained about probably a 25% to 75% ratio of projects to recurring revenue. Um, I'd like to see that creep a little closer to 30%, get some more projects in here. But if you've got some good sized clients and you are properly doing a customer account management process, they're going to need new switches. They're going to need firewalls, and you're not putting this stuff in for free. There's going to be labor. They're going to need new servers. They're going to need a migration to the cloud and all that. That's another one of those hurdles that might scare somebody out of an MSP business today is all my clients are moving to the cloud and getting rid of their servers and they're not going to need me anymore. And that's just, it's not true. Somebody's still got to secure all that stuff and manage it.
That's right. That's right. Oh, well, fun stuff, Charles. Well, listen, it's been a pleasure getting to know you and hearing your thoughts on the industry, and congratulations again on your great success. What if you were going to define 2026 for the company? What would be some words to describe what 2026 is going to be all about?
2026 is going to be about improving sales processes, working to reduce my role in sales and marketing, and increasing profitability. Looking for
Outstanding.
more ways to be efficient internally, which will increase profitability and cutting
Out.
out waste.
There you go. Well, I love it. Well, listen, Charles, where can people find you out in the world if they wanted to get in touch with you?
My last name is Swihart, Swihart. If you Google me, that's a unique name. You're going to find me pretty fast. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm responsive on LinkedIn. A lot of people don't check their LinkedIn but once a month or something, but I have it alert me if somebody checks in there. Yeah, reach out.
Right on. Well, thanks everyone for joining us on this conversation. If we earned it, give us a like, a share, a subscribe. It means a lot to us. And Charles, thanks for joining. Bye.